Welcome to Kindred, hosted by me, Kate, and my sister Jen. In this podcast, we explore our human relationship to the natural world. In connecting to this planet, we also connect to understanding, compassion, and empathy. How can we see ourselves as not separate or above animals in nature, but a critical and integrated part of an active ecosystem? Through conversations with animal advocates, scientists, conservationists, and many others, we look to inspire a new awareness of how and why we connect to animals and nature in order to repair and restore our relationship to the natural world. Hello and welcome to Kindred. How is everyone today? How are you, Miss Jennifer? Today?
I'm good. I'm good. Yep.
Yeah.
I am good.
Good. So,
yep.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
Only 2 more nights in the 30s. I looked at the weather, so I'm looking forward to
some real spring,
that being done since it's basically May. But okay.
Yeah, we're getting there. We are definitely getting there. So I have a little story for you today.
Let's hear it.
So when I was coming back from the gym, our favorite gym called G-Fit. If you're in the Philly area, check them out. Girls only. We love it. Free plug for G-Fit. So as I'm coming down the road, I see this giant brown thing just outside my driveway. And I'm like, that's I thought it was a turkey vulture. Nope, it was just a old turkey, just a
Straight
turkey.
Up turkey.
And I'm like, there's a flipping turkey in the road. So I slow way down, put on my flashers, flashing everyone so no one runs it over because everyone drives 1 million miles per hour. And the thing, poor little thing, like goes to like ducks down and like in the road, like sort of like, I'm not here, I'm just going to be real small.
Right.
So I'm like, no. So I kind of like, we all waited. I kind of shoot it across the road a little bit. And then it went across the road into the acres and by the river over there. But I'm like, where did this turkey come from? Like, I don't know where this turkey came from.
Oh, we have turkeys around here.
I've never seen a turkey around here ever. So maybe it's the first turkey.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, wait till you see like a flock of them and all of a sudden they all fly up into a tree and you're like, that is not possible actually. Like just gravity makes it almost impossible, but they can do it.
Okay. Yeah. So I wonder if they're like guinea fowl, they flop around and roost in trees. But I was like, this is the first turkey we've seen here. Okay. So I think it was a female too. She's really cute. And then I was like, oh my gosh, can we be best friends? How am I going to feed her? Can she live on the property? But there's a busy road, so I hope we don't become friends because
there's probably more than one if she's there, and they just take their time, and they're up at the Cape all over the place too, and you just stop until they cross because they're big and
they're huge.
You don't want to hit one. Yeah,
huge. So really she was real cute. So welcome turkeys to the property. Yeah,
she's found her new favorite place to live.
She's welcome. All are welcome. Anyway, our guest today has absolutely nothing to do with turkeys, but I'm still very excited to introduce her. So today we are speaking with entomologist Gwen Erdosh. And I would say if you have an Instagram or Facebook book account, get on right now, literally, and search Gwentomologist on Instagram, so you can see what we're talking about. She has the best videos and posts and reels, and her Instagram is great. It's actually how we found her, and she makes the best videos about these incredible insects. So definitely check her out before we get to the interview, just so you can see what we're talking about. And the reason we wanted to speak with Gwen is because she is so passionate about entomology at such a young age. I mean, she's now on her way to grad school and she's working for an amazing nonprofit called SaveNature.org, but she's always loved bugs and she's a girl, right? Like it's just not often that you find young girls and women like being so passionate about entomology and like she has great music with her videos. So, and she's just such an inspiration and a kindred soul to us because of her deep respect and passion for insects. And you can just like hear it when she talks. And how smart is she too? And she's just like, she knows a lot. And I don't know, maybe she's an old soul, but So follow Gwen at Gwentomologist. If you can't find her, you will soon enough through our Instagram and Facebook at the Kindred Pod, where whenever we drop a new episode, we focus on them for about 2 weeks, and we'll do the same with Gwen. So you'll be seeing a lot of her. Um, and it's just a great place to find all kinds of extra information about our episodes. So let's go meet entomologist Gwen Erdosh, and we'll see you at the takeaway. Gwen, hello, and welcome to Kindred. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Hi, I'm super happy to be here. My name is Gwendolyn Erdosh. I usually go by Gwen, and I'm an entomologist.
Sweet. Yes, that is very exciting. So we are so pumped to have you here. Um, very much looking to dig into the bug life. Again, I'm obsessed. So, but it's funny. The other day I was thinking, like, I feel like insects are the terrestrial equivalent of like many small creatures or crustaceans like of the sea. And
Absolutely.
like if you compare like a lobster to like a scorpion, right? And we'll get into classification more later, but
Yeah.
also like the colors of insects are so vibrant and much
Oh,
like marine
yeah,
species can be, right? And like,
totally.
and for whatever reason, like when people snorkel and dive, they aren't like, ooh, those creatures living on that beautiful coral are so gross and creepy. And then you put that animal on land and call it an insect, and people like lose their minds. So
Yeah.
so today, so let's dig into the amazing world above water that is entomology and talk about
Ooh.
your work and your passion. So Gwen, we'll start with that. I first found you via Instagram and your amazing account, and I'm really interested in how you came to love the world of insects. So talk to us about how you came to make entomology your career and why.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it started when I was really young. I was probably like 3 or 4 years old, and it actually started with caterpillars, weirdly. I grew up in the mountains, and I was really lucky to have parents who just let me go outside and explore and be in nature. And I feel like that unique experience allowed me to develop a passion for wildlife and being outdoors and creating and, exploring. And I just started becoming obsessed with caterpillars, and it blew my mind how, this little wormy guy that looked, nothing like a butterfly or a moth could turn, into this totally different looking insect. And that was the
Right.
first thing that completely like intrigued me. And I remember the second thing that just truly kind of freaked me out, but also ended up getting me really into entomology, was I would be raising these caterpillars, and a lot of times instead of a moth or butterfly coming out, a parasitoid wasp or fly would come out.
Ooh,
Oh,
And
whoa.
yeah,
Okay, that takes a real
that's
turn.
kind of a bummer. That would be like,
yeah,
whoa,
Well, maybe
bummer.
maybe not to
Yes.
Gwen.
yeah. And at first it was, devastating. Oh my gosh. But I
Right.
started looking at them closely. I started realizing, wow, there's so many like intricate connections between, you know, these animals and how they interact with each other and what's going on. And my parents aren't entomologists. They didn't really know anything about insects, and sometimes they would tell me that, they would try to explain it in the best way they knew how, but I was just super intrigued, and I would read books about it, and I would, and I started I actually made my own little identification book. I started
Oh,
writing
that's so
down each of
freaking
yeah.
adorable.
I was like 7 years old. I was making each caterpillar I raised. I would do a full description. I'd print out a little picture that I took of it on my little camera, and I'd write up all my observations and what it turned into and the species I identified it to. And that kind of developed into a passion for insects. And then, yeah, it was incredible that I actually got to go to this camp at UC Davis when I was 12. And it was a camp about biology, but the main focus was insects because it was run by entomologists at UC Davis. And there was like a groundbreaking experience for me because I learned how to collect insects. I learned so much more about a great variety of insects, how to create a collection, how to identify them. I just had these amazing experiences at that camp with these real entomologists where I learned that you could actually have a career with bugs,
Right.
which
Yes.
I didn't know. I just thought, oh, I like insects. And
Right, right.
meeting these entomologists at UC Davis was insanely inspiring to me because I just looked up to them so much, and I was like,
Yeah.
I want to be like you guys when I grow up. So
Well, and I
Oh,
think that's part of like what I find so amazing as of views like this long-term girl, female energy that's like most girls are not compelled toward bugs. It's the absolute
yeah.
obvious. And then society really like reinforces that. So it's just like, I love that you're like, no, born loving him always. So then did you from that camp with UC Davis, like, okay, high school, then college, you just knew this is always where you were going?
Yeah, that was pretty much it for me. I mean, I did the camp each summer. I'd actually come back and do it again.
Yeah,
It
sure.
was, I would be like, please, please. And so I ended up going to this camp. I met lots of other young, aspiring entomologists. And, originally my passion was mainly for Lepidoptera, which is moths and butterflies. In
Oh,
fact, my
cool.
Instagram account used to be called Lepidoptera Central.
I
So
love
I was just
that. Hey, we
everything
laugh, but I'm like totally
moth and
into it.
butterfly. I just
Oh
think it's
yeah.
so cool that that a camp like that exists. B, that your parents followed up with your passion to
Yeah.
find something that you could do for your interest, and that at such a young age, I think it's so cool too that you realize that this could be my job.
Yeah.
Like, I
right.
think
Yeah.
you were very fortunate in a lot of ways to not only,
Mm.
I mean, to have a passion. It is unique probably that it's bugs, but that you were like mentored in that along the way. So it's like,
Yeah,
no, good
totally.
job. I mean,
Oh my
that's so
gosh, yeah.
awesome.
It is
Props to
so
your parents.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
props to your parents. Yeah.
Hmm.
My parents are incredible people, and I owe a lot of the amazing experiences I've had and been able to go to. I definitely owe to them being open-minded and
Yeah.
encouraging, because I know a lot of other people. I really do know a lot of other entomologists whose parents were, disgusted by why are you passionate about this? You should do this and that for your
Yeah.
career.
Sure,
I was
sure.
I was lucky,
Yeah.
Yeah, or
very
that they
No.
just
privileged.
wouldn't
So,
think about that you would turn it into a career. They're just like, she just likes
right,
bugs, and
Right.
then
right,
get on with
exactly.
Hmm.
algebra and get on with, chemistry or whatever.
That's
But
right.
oh,
That's
Right,
right.
exactly,
yeah,
What are you gonna do with this when you graduate with
yeah, just go
being a
outside
bug
and play in
lover?
the
exactly,
dirt. Yeah.
But yeah, and I
exactly,
think
yeah.
and I love your Instagram account because it's just like the music you use and like it's like watching this fashion show of these bugs moving around and you let the squiggliest, crawliest like bugs on your hands and arms, and it's just actually like kind of can desensitize people a
Yeah,
little bit. But like I think some of my
absolutely.
favorites that you feature are grasshoppers, and then the
Mm,
moths. We Jenna, we I don't know, we love moths, and that just find them
yeah,
like sort of
awesome.
mysterious. Yeah, and then beetles. I just feel like you're so good at highlighting the just the beauty and just like kind of like no, this little guy is like not creepy, he's just like crawling around doing his thing, he's not going to sting me, or if he does I'm going to live and it's all good. But I love that story. Thanks for sharing how you came to it because that's just it's very cool to hear. So
Yeah,
Gwen,
thank you. Yeah.
today you are working with an organization called SaveNature.org, but you're also looking to attend graduate school. um,
Yeah.
but talk to us about this nonprofit and what your role entails, and then we'll talk about your goal or mission moving forward in entomology. So let's start with
Yeah.
SaveNature.org and what you're doing there, and then we'll get to grad school.
Yeah. So Save Nature is absolutely incredible. They are amazing. So it was started by Norman Gershens and then his wife. Well, they're married, Leslie. Um, Leslie Saul Gershens is a scientist at UC Davis. She's an entomologist, and her husband is he's very passionate about all wildlife, but obviously specifically insects.
Right.
And they created, this is back in the 80s, they created this nonprofit.
Oh,
And it
cool.
was basically to get the goal of the nonprofit is to get people to care about wildlife, insects specifically, but all wildlife, and preserve the important habitats around the world. So they actually work with people in many different countries to preserve wildlife there. So they do adopt an acre program where you can actually donate and adopt an acre. They don't just go and buy land. They actually work with the people that live there and figure out something with them, which land should be preserved, what works best for them, which is what I really appreciate. They're not just going over there and they don't actually, they work directly with the people that conserve land that live in these
right.
countries, which is
That's
incredible.
awesome. Yeah.
And
Keeps
they
them,
directly
keeps their
support them.
agency, the landowners. Yeah. Especially in other countries. That's really critical. Yeah, that's great.
Exactly, which is something that was very important to me.
Yeah.
They also, one of the biggest things that they do, which is what I'm participating the most in, is educating the public about insects and other arthropods. So they provide, or we provide, experiences for kids and adults too, people of all ages, to learn about insects and to actually get to hold them, see them up close, and get over their fears. Start replacing those misconceptions that they've learned in society with respect and appreciation for these
Love
animals.
that.
And teaching them just some basic things that a lot of people don't know. I mean,
Right.
this might shock you, but the vast majority of people don't know that insects are animals.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
What do they think they
It would
are?
shock you.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, people don't think of them as, when they think of animals, they think of mammals or birds, reptiles.
Oh,
They don't
right.
realize insects are, a part of that, are actually important for the ecosystem, or,
Yes.
and I feel like the programs that we do are meant to completely shift people's perception. I mean, I actually recently did a presentation at Juvenile Hall in San Francisco
Cool.
with kids that are in juvie, and a lot of them had never really seen an insect up close.
Yeah.
And had never gotten the experience to actually hold or interact with an insect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Growing up in the city, in San Francisco, a lot of times you're not really seeing insects, not the native ones at least. You might see cockroaches, but I think it was just a really crazy experience for them, because they're, actually by the end of the presentation, a lot of them were like, "Oh my gosh, I would keep one as a pet," or "Wow, they're actually really cool," or "Wow, yeah, like."
Well, isn't it interesting that one of the overarching themes I think we come across in this podcast is that when people don't know about something, it can be very scary. And
exactly.
Ignorance can be equal fear. And I think there's so many people who are trying to educate in whatever way, whether it's a nature thing or an animal thing. And once people understand, and I'm thinking of an experience that my kids had when they were little, and they're all in their late 20s, early 30s now, where we went to a butterfly place and they had a tarantula there that you could hold.
Right.
And they're like, "This is Rosie. You want to hold her?" I'm like, "Heck no, don't want to hold
Rosie."
I didn't want my kids to be afraid, so I did it. And just that, I was just thinking it's one of the creepier, things that you can see as a tarantula, a spider, I think specifically, but just that, oh, it's not going to do anything to me. And when they told me all these facts about the tarantula, that I'm like, okay, I'm not afraid now that I'm going to die. So
yeah, totally.
Same thing, that just the demystification, I think, and destigmatizing of these creatures that we either hear folklore about or we just know nothing about. So it's just like,
and that's such a good example of what we're talking about. That's exactly right.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's a perfect example. Yep.
So good for you. Good for you.
Good for you in that program.
And holy cow, good for them since the 80s. That's a long time.
That's amazing. Especially with the focus on insects. I love that.
Yeah.
And just the focus on that is so important. That's why I wanted to talk to you, like entomology people. This is what, like, without insects, we are all not here. That's the truth.
Exactly.
So what's the landscape like where you're working in? So you said you're up in San Francisco?
Yes. We have like a radius of about 2 hours. We'll drive, East Bay, we'll go North Bay, we go South Bay. Sometimes we'll go a bit farther. I think sometimes even like Davis, Sacramento. But for the most part, it's around the Bay, and we go to schools, libraries. We go to, public events, like science programs. We actually just went to an Earth Day event. We had like a tabling event where we brought a bunch of insects, their kids, families, all sorts of people that were coming to celebrate Earth Day.
Great.
And so that's one part of the job. And then also I do research with Leslie. She does research in the Mojave Desert and Joshua Tree on native bees.
Oh, cool.
So I'm helping her with that. So we drive down, we spend about a week at a field station down in like the Mojave Desert general area. We go to, national parks, we set up traps and set up different methods for collecting. And then we do biodiversity surveys. We're also doing the DNA barcoding project, which is actually really fascinating thing that's going on in California right now. Like every university in California is working together. All the entomologists are working together to try to get DNA barcode for every single species of insect in California.
Wow.
So that's my next focus I want to talk to you about, because when you and I had spoken earlier, you said when you get into grad school, this is what you want to do. Is that correct? You want to go from, and you mentioned morphology, which is like basically what they look like, morphology to phylogeny. Is that right?
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So my specific interest is in their taxonomy, phylogeny, which is basically like how they evolved, what they're related to, identifying new species, naming new species, figuring out biodiversity. One of like the biggest things in that field, that specific field, is you have to pick a certain group. I'm very interested in Hymenoptera and wasps, specifically parasitoids, but it's really hard to pick a group because, I love all insects and I'm fascinated with them, Strepsiptera, Macroptera, really like Neuroptera.
Great. Well, now and I don't know what any of that means, but they sound very interesting. I took Latin and don't know what you're saying, but yes, lots of different.
No, you're not expected to, there's specific orders of
Geek out. It's totally fine. Geek out.
Yeah, let's hear it, girl. Just throw those words around. Like I can't even like say that word right now.
You can Google those words. Yeah,
I will later.
Yeah, but they're just like groups of like Hymenoptera is bees, wasps, and ants.
Okay, cool. Oh, okay. That's helpful. Yeah, love all of them. And you were saying too that phylogeny is really like so historically it's been like, love Darwin, the best guy, right? But the sort of like that Darwin sort of focus of like putting these insects in all these categories, but you're saying it's just like no, we actually have to go and look at the DNA and like categorize them via that, which is far more specific and far more important, because then we know like who and what and where and why and all the things, so that we can like help support them better, right? Just knowing like what's out there or what we have and what hopefully we aren't going to lose as well.
Exactly. That's actually a huge thing in conservation, which is another interest that I have, is because you want to figure out what areas, this is really sad, but you can only conserve some areas just based on how the world's going right now, how development is going. You can only really pick and choose. It shouldn't be that way, but if you have let's say you have 5 different areas, a government might say, okay, we can conserve one of them. You got to figure out which one is the most important to conserve. And one of the things that you can do, or scientists can do, they go down and they'll do surveys and they'll, figure out how diverse each area is and how interconnected each, system is and how fragile each system is.
Right.
And then through that, they can then make that decision of which area they would be more important to conserve. So that definitely has a big part of it. Yeah.
I'm still stuck on what you said about you're studying native bees in the Mojave Desert, and with Joshua Tree, I'm like, how does a bee survive in the Mojave Desert? I don't even.
Right.
It just like seems like an oxymoron that bees could live in a desert.
Okay. This is actually a really great topic to talk about. So Leslie she said to me, like, before we started the project, she said, a lot of people assume, like, for a good reason, that like, there shouldn't be any insects in the Mojave Desert. How does anyone survive? But actually there's even more diversity in the Mojave Desert than there would be in other places, because every insect is super specialized, and every plant and every animal is extremely specialized to the desert. There's actually hundreds of species of bees that live in just the Mojave Desert.
What do they live off of?
So there are certain plants like Stragalus. There's a really good plant that produces these amazing flowers that are great for bees. There's dandelion, desert dandelion. I'm still learning the plants. I'm new to plants, but there are a lot of flowers that come out around this time of year, and they disappear very quickly. But a lot of these insects have evolved or are adapted to being able to collect all their resources very quickly and storing them, and then able to survive with almost zero water and zero
That's the other thing I was thinking is bees here, like I'm a beekeeper, and it's like they need a water source.
Yes.
again, confusing me.
Well,
Yeah.
and
Right,
remember, like,
honeybees, yeah,
well,
honeybees
and
are
remember the
different.
bees that you're using aren't native. I mean, that you're
No,
working
I
with
know.
aren't native. So it's like you
But
take like these species and like, and it's like the what actually is because it's not just stark sandy deserts. Like, and what's interesting to me about this too, Gwen, is that they're extremely niche, which makes me feel like they're extremely fragile because of the very
Hmm.
interconnected sort of reciprocal relationship that this type of bee must have with this type of plant or flower.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah.
also fascinating how adaptive nature is, that they have adapted
Yes.
so that they can collect all their resources like now and then live for the rest
Hmm.
of the year off that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many, even the plants, you'd see these plants, they look like aliens. I mean, there's like
Yeah.
half the
Yeah.
plants don't even have leaves.
Right.
They
Yeah.
have photosynthesized through their stems, and they
Yeah.
don't even, just to hold more water in the,
So cool.
cactuses, that hold the water inside. And the insects the same way, they're adapted to these very specific, very hot environments, like the beetle I just posted about, has their elytra, which is those top wings that have evolved to actually be like a big covering with a big space of air. And that air flows through constantly so they can run around all day in the extremely hot desert and actually be able to cool themselves off because they
They have
run
their
so
own
fast
air
and that
conditioning system.
Wow.
exactly. It's
That
crazy.
is
And
astounding.
they have this like waxy cover on the top of them, which basically prevents almost any water from leaving their body so that they get to
Wow.
conserve that water. They don't even need to drink water. So it's, yeah,
Well, and
crazy stuff
this is
going on.
another reason I just have to say that, and this is very self-serving, but it's also incredibly fascinating what we can learn like in the tech world from a bug like that, from an insect like that. Like what can we learn in a
Totally.
warming climate? How do we build that? And these little machines, these little that's why entomology to me is just endlessly fascinating. It's just
Mhm.
very, it's just it's incredible. So that's exciting. So that's exciting work that you want to take into grad school.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's very cool. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about, and just going to get into the challenges that insects are facing today and why. So talk to us
Hmm.
about a few of the major threats insects are facing and, also what are the consequences to not only them, but to these delicate ecosystems that we're talking about that they operate within.
Yeah, what's going on right now is pretty horrendous. Insects are facing really serious challenges. The populations are seriously declining. It's been being studied how their populations are declining. Even some species are threatened. A lot of lycaenids, the little blue butterflies, are actually going extinct, some of the species.
Yeah,
And this is all being caused by climate change, development, destruction of the sensitive habitats that we were talking about,
right.
pollution, of course, um, agricultural runoff is a big one.
Mhm.
Pesticides,
Hmm.
pesticides are actually they get everywhere, not just in
Yeah.
that center that you want it to be in. Another big one is invasive species of plants and insects are out competing a lot of the native
Oh,
ones,
yeah.
which means you basically will get just one species dominating, which
Mhm.
means you're replacing like 100 species with just one,
Yeah.
which means if the diversity is really low in a certain area, then that's really bad because if you have just one occupying all these niches, and that can cause really bad things for the environment.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
And if that one plant
yeah,
doesn't like this one invasive species, then that plant also suffers, right? Because it needs that other
exactly.
insect.
Exactly. Like there are a lot of plants that depend on literally one species of insect. Like
Wow.
pipevine, for example, is only pollinated by like a couple species of tiny little flies.
Mm.
And without those flies, pipevine's gone. No
Oh,
other insects can even. And pipevine supports then, this is crazy. Pipevine then supports a beautiful species of swallowtail, the pipevine swallowtail. So then
Mm.
if the pipevine's gone, then the swallowtail is gone. Now then the birds that eat that swallowtail, now you know what I mean? So it keeps
yeah, I sure
going and
do.
going, gets super interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
sorry, I keep getting
no,
sidetracked.
no, not at all. No, this
So
is
that's
exactly what I
very,
want to talk about.
yeah.
Yeah. So what are you seeing in your day to day in context to this?
I mean, climate change is the biggest one. I mean, we're seeing, you know, we're okay. This is something I did on my undergrad that we were studying in the Yang lab. Professor Yang is a really intelligent, incredible entomologist, experimental ecologist. He's doing work on phenology shifts, which basically means like what climate change is doing is what you guys were talking about in your spring, how all the plants came out at the same time, right? Instead of coming out at different times, which you were saying is like weird, right? And
Yeah.
it's causing issues in people too, getting more allergies. That's exactly what he's studying, but in terms of insects. So insect plant relationship, it depends on the exact time the plants come out. And usually the time the plants come out and the time the insects come out can be based on different things, but they should correspond every year. So, you know, for example,
like they should be syncing up.
They have to line up because certain things, depend on that.
Exactly. And so if, you know, a plant is depending on a certain temperature to get to a certain, you know, let's say it has to get to 70 degrees for at least 3 nights for this plant to start producing flowers or something. And then the insect is more about humidity and heat. So if those things aren't syncing up, then you're going to end up with a bunch of insects that all merge and their plant isn't there.
Right.
And it's, you know, that's all being caused by climate change. And so that's one of the biggest things we are noticing, other than just the temperature. The average temperature is really increasing. But it's pretty bad. I mean, a lot of insects that live up in the snow, like there's a snow scorpion fly, they're becoming rarer and rarer. Their habitats, places that they've been found, I've gone to try to look for them, and there's no snow there during the time they're supposed to be there. So just those type of things are they're happening, and it's getting worse, which is kind of scary.
And then I think, you know, this is why we do the podcast, and this is why we want to talk to people like you who are making this their life's work. And I'm so grateful, and it's just so fantastic to hear your passion and your focus, because it's like our lack of connection and understanding is contributing to just making this huge negative impact on these integral, like, you know, interconnected systems, and we don't even know that it exists out there, right? Like, and we're like, oh well, the desert's out there, and we live in a jungle on the East Coast most of the time. It's just like, well, but it's how it's sort of that knock-on effect that you were talking about before. And it kind of makes me feel like a little sweaty, a little anxious, just like here, like, because it just feels, it does. And I understand where scientists, like you were saying, people like, this is happening right now. It's not coming anymore. Right. Yeah. And we're experiencing, like, you're out there and you're like, well, I went to the snow and I didn't find this one that you should have typically found, what, 10 years ago type thing?
Yep. Exactly. Well, it's scary. People,
And I mean, nature is incredibly clever and adaptive, but it's like, again, a lot of people we're talking to are saying they can't adapt this quickly. You know what I mean? Nature can't adapt as quickly as it's need to. Like, if you need snow to have this animal and there's no snow, then it's not gonna, what then? Or like, I just thinking about these bugs that all hatch out and then there's nothing for them to eat. It's like, oh man, what the heck?
Oh man.
Like, we don't really get the deepness of the ramifications. I think some people just think, oh, it's just getting a little hotter, or it's just, you know, everything's brilliant. Who cares? You know, it's not, again, where it's great to talk to people like you, because this information is like, oh, that's going to shift a lot of people's perspective that don't really maybe even realize.
Yeah.
And hopefully.
Right. Exactly. There's even, I mean, people, one of the things I really like the point you just made with the, you know, people don't realize how it affects them, or, you know, they're, oh, it's going to get a little hotter. I don't mind that. I can deal with a little more heat. Right. And then you find out things like dengue was just discovered in a place that it's never been discovered before. You know, you start,
dengue fever. Yeah.
Right. Or you start figuring out that mosquitoes that carry the disease that were only found in certain areas are now creeping up more and more, and they're observations are getting higher and higher, and you tell that to someone and they're like, oh, okay, this isn't just a little bit of heat, you know. It's like, the more you find out, it's like there's so many things that affect us, like significantly directly, and then there's things, almost everything else will affects us, maybe not as directly, or if you told someone, they might not realize how it affects them. But there are some things where you can tell people and they'll be like, oh, okay.
Right.
That's scary, you know, like.
No, it's so true. And this is my next question. Like, we're already kind of talking about, but you know, where, from your perspective, like where do you think we stand as a society and like our overall understanding and our care and connection to the critical role that insects play in our human world? Like what we're saying, like I guess I'm curious how you specifically are feeling, like in your generation, like where we are in context to like our dedication to, I was going to say change and taking responsibility, but even just awareness, right? To begin with, to order to slow the effects of climate change, you know, and help save these critical species. Like, and I know like you're probably so sick of it, like, oh, you're so young. It's just like, but there's a lot weighing on your generation, ours too. Like we're all in it, but
we're all in it. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot of work to be done. It's a work in progress. I do feel like my generation, there's a massive divide. There are the people who don't even believe any of this stuff is happening. They don't believe that insects even, it's a very political, it's a huge division. And I think there's a lot of misinformation just constantly circling around. But I think for the most part, I've gotten the sense that things are getting better, at least with certain groups of people, where people are starting to educate themselves. People are starting to, especially with insects, if we're looking at how people respond to insects, I would say a lot more people in my generation will tell me that they understand, that insects are important. Maybe they don't want them around them, which is totally fair. But I think a lot more people are like, yeah, insects are super important and they're, a crucial part of the ecosystem. Versus,
and these are people like outside of your entomology world, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear.
People, it seems like people around my age, like in college in my math classes or whatever, people that had nothing to do with, or just people that I've met that are around my age, because I live in Oakland, people around, they'll ask me about my tattoos or, something. I mean, I'll talk about insects to people, and it seems like people have a lot more respect compared to, when I was a little kid, all my grandparents had a very negative connotation. I mean, very, I feel like a lot of people have this really, especially immigrants, my parents are immigrants. It's like they have a very negative idea about insects. I do feel like it is getting better.
And I think that's immigrants. I think that's how my grandpa, I think that's just generational and just being really disconnected. So I get that.
Yeah.
No, and they didn't really have a need to know because they weren't in the kind of the dire straits that we are now. But it is interesting to me to say your generation is definitely like divided. I think there's probably a lot of people your age who aren't even thinking about the world and what it needs. But I do draw a lot of hope from, there are also, I say this all the time, at least in my head, there are so many smart young people who know so much that I know they're going to figure it out because they're so
Gwen.
Smart. I mean, yeah, you guys have so much knowledge and so much available. Like the fact that what at 23, probably some people 2 generations ago didn't know at the end of their time,
that is so true.
Career. So I think that's feel true. Like there's a lot of hope, and I feel like there's a very big portion of your generation that's incredibly motivated to actually step up and take some responsibility, because it's like, these old people, am I right? So
listen, we got some life left in us. But yeah, Gwen, that's really good to hear.
It is good to hear. Yeah.
And you personally, how are you feeling with this?
Yeah, I feel like it definitely can be like stressful just thinking about. Yeah, it is stressful. It's like that existential, like, oh my gosh. And sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough, and then I feel like then I get overwhelmed, and then I feel like, well, what if, it's like this constant like, well, maybe I should just like sacrifice myself for the cause. And I'm like, well, that wouldn't help anyone, because if you're not okay, then how can you help other people?
That's
and
right.
It's like, and then I
don't do that.
Yeah, right, exactly. You kind of have to like balance. And then I kind of came to a realization that, like, because obviously I could have gone into environmental policy to make the greatest change, right? But then I realized everyone should just do their part with what they're passionate about. Like if someone's passionate about policy, someone's passionate about technology, someone's passionate. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Someone's going to be the best at something that you care the most about. Like, I do think
exactly.
That's true. Like, you can just stay in your lane. Somebody else can do that. Yeah.
Right. And we need people from every different field, every different niche, every different job to be working together to solve these issues. and there, nobody's excluded. Every type of field is absolutely necessary for making change. So it's like, it's not like everyone should just go into the thing that does the most direct help.
Right.
Like, I truly believe everyone should just do what they're passionate about, but see if what they're passionate about can help make change in, climate change and destruction of habitat around the world.
I love that. I love that.
Good answer.
Yes. Can what you do, can you also connect it to like healing and supporting the planet? I love that, Gwen. That's really insightful. That's a great quote. And I think yeah, that's really important. Well, I'm happy to hear that your generation is like I like you're saying it's terrible that insects are now political. And it also is inspiring to hear that you feel, I know, right? Like who knew? But that you just keep doing what you're doing because we need you and we need your generation especially. But one question I do have, I just want to switch gears a little bit because I kept thinking, don't forget to ask you this, but I want you to talk about like, what's your favorite bug experience or your top 5 favorite insects? Like, I know you love them all, they're all your babies, but like, what's the coolest thing you've come across or experienced?
On a more positive note, let's go. I think my favorite insect is Climacelia brunea, which is a species of mantis fly. And why I like mantis flies is because they're just the weirdest things in the world. They're like a combination of like every cool thing just balled into one insect. Evolution really, really got them, really.
Nice.
So
So what do they look like?
Oh, I mean, they can be different sizes. Sometimes they're very small. Sometimes they're, a little bit larger. They can be brown, red, yellow, all different colors, and they have like mantis raptorial forelegs.
I was
Oh,
wondering
think
if that's
about
why they were called that.
yeah,
they're
same.
weirdly they're not related. They're related more to antlions and lacewings, so they're not related to mantises, but they
That's what
have those. They've evolved similar front legs, which basically are used to catch prey. So I'm like acting it out over here. We're on a
I
That's
podcast.
like
cool.
it.
I'm loving it. She's doing like praying mantis arms
If only
actions,
this
even
was a
if they're
visual podcast too. Yeah.
we're putting
Oh,
this one on YouTube. Get ready.
Like forgetting. Um, they have like these raptorial forelegs, and
That's
they
cool.
use those to catch prey. But they're also Climastelia brunea is also a mimic of a wasp, of a paper wasp.
Okay.
And get this, it is a parasitoid of spiders. So
Wait,
it's
so
a parasitoid
parasitoid of spiders. Does that mean it puts its baby parasites in a spider or it's okay?
in a spider. Yeah. Or
Okay.
maybe on the I think no, actually no. It is a parasitoid, but it's an ectoparasitoid. So the larvae live on the outside of the spider and eat
Okay.
it
Okay.
like slowly alive, and I think it ends up dying, which means parasitoid means the host dies.
Okay.
Parasite
Oh
means that the
gosh,
host
got it. Okay.
doesn't
So the spider
die.
doesn't, it's
Yeah.
not like the movie Alien where one day it's at dinner and it pops out of its
And it
chest and
bursts
it
out.
bursts
Yeah.
out and here's the thing. Okay.
Yeah. Even though that's very
Good.
common. That happens a lot.
Great. Well, at least this spider has a living chance. So it sort of lives off the spider
No, the
and
spider
then
doesn't have a chance. The spider dies.
it does die too?
Spider
Yeah, parasitoid, she said, means it dies.
Parasitoid means that it dies.
So
Parasite means that it doesn't die. So
Okay.
then
Like a tick is
ecto
yeah.
ecto can mean like either of them, and then endo means like so ecto means
Oh,
it's on the
got you.
outside, and
Yes.
endo
Yeah.
means that it's like on the inside.
Got
And
it.
so they're spider parasitoids. So then they, somehow they're able to find these spider nests, which usually not the spider web, but usually spiders that are more like in the ground.
Yeah.
Like they live in holes and stuff, and they'll feed off these, and they emerge, and they're this incredible mantis fly that looks just like a paper wasp. So if someone saw it flying around, they think, "Oh, wasp, probably shouldn't mess with it."
Okay. Mhm.
But it's actually this totally harmless little guy.
Unless you're the spider
Um,
and you're like, no. Yeah, unless you're the spider. So there's that.
Unless you're the spider, yeah.
Never been so happy not to be a spider as I am right now, but yeah.
Nature is just,
Unfortunate.
it's so wild. It's like you can't even make
Nature's
movie.
nuts.
It's like this is where we get like what art mimics true real life or whatever. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Like the other thing kind of related to this is Strepsiptera, It's called a twisted wing parasite. And very similarly, even though they're parasite, they're ecto-endo because they're kind of half in, half out parasites. Um, they I don't even know how to describe it without showing pictures. Basically, the female is this like little worm dude girl who stays in the abdomen of the bee. She never turns into an adult, technically. She has reproductive organs, but just looks like a little wormy guy. The males are like the weirdest looking things. They have these eyes that look like raspberries with all these weird globes, and they have these weird twisted wings. They only have two wings, like a fly, but they're the
Okay.
opposite wings. So instead of
Okay.
having like the whole tiers, those little fake little things they use to direct themselves,
Yes.
on the back they have them on the front. So it's like a fly in reverse, and
Okay.
they're
You're gonna have to
tiny.
send me
They're
pictures and we'll post this on our
yeah,
website.
Strepsiptera. If you want to hear about something absolutely nuts, look up Strepsiptera.
I
But
will.
I actually found one randomly,
Oh
and it was like
wow.
the weirdest experience I've ever had. Like I was walking down a path. I was at Bug Boot Camp, which is like this 9-unit course for UC Davis, entomology intensive. And I was walking down. I see this bee, right, and it's just kind of laying on the ground, like kind of like, not doing so hot. I
Right.
pick it up, and it turns out it's a family of bees I've never seen before. I'm really excited. Like it's a colletid, which is this family of bees. I take it in, and I'm about to pin it, because I was putting it in the freezer, about to pin it, and then I see this weird little thing sticking out, and I'm like, wait a minute, and
Oh
I put it
wow.
under a microscope, and sure enough, it had a female strepsipteran in it, which is like they're so rare. I mean, there's only like
Wow.
a lot of specimens in like the entire world
So what
of
do you
this
do?
order of
Like
insects.
code red and you put it on a little gurney and you take it to the
Yeah,
entomology department? Like, people, what do we have here? I mean, a little tiny
so
bug gurney?
literally,
Like, oh, wow.
it was like I just started screaming to my class. I was like, strepsipteran. Everyone came running. Everyone was looking at it under the microscope. Everyone's like freaking out. My professor's like, no way. No
Wow.
way.
So can you
It was
save
just,
them,
yeah.
or is it just like you let it play out and it dies and you put it on a pin on the
Yeah.
board? Yeah.
I mean, so what I did is I didn't end up freezing it. I ended up keeping it outside in the hopes that a male would come for like a while. I guess the bee died on its own without anything happening. I guess
Yeah.
maybe the parasite was doing something, the bee died, but
Wow.
yeah, I guess no males end up coming, which was kind of unfortunate. I really hope to see a male someday, but
Yeah.
yeah, they're just freaky and weird. I've had weird experiences like that where I was like collecting and I find this thing that kind of looks normal and I take it home to identify it. And it's like something that's never been recorded in like the state of California, or
That's so
it's only been
cool.
recorded back in like the 1860s and no one's found a specimen since. I mean, just
Wow.
weird,
When?
weird
But you
stuff.
just because you're like paying attention, just think about like,
Right,
that's incredible. That
So
is
that's
so
probably
cool.
a
right.
good brag to your entomology
That's a
friends. It's
pretty
like,
good
oh,
brag.
well,
That's
I
a
mean,
I
I
pretty
mean,
don't
good
know.
brag.
them have experiences like that too. I mean, I have a friend from UC Davis who found like the first ever recorded of this ancient type of neuropteran that looks like an antlion, but it's not. It's this weird. It's in the order family Polystoicoideae, and she found it in Davis. It's never been found in Davis, and they're like
Wow.
ancient fossils, basically. Like just
Wow.
weird, weird stuff. I mean, being an
That's like
entomologist is
finding
probably
like
like
the Loch Ness monster, right? Like this is the same
yeah,
thing though. People don't really understand like what you're saying is like kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. So that's very cool.
yeah.
Well, Gwen, our last question we ask everybody. I'm so sorry to be moving on. We're loving talking to
No, no,
you,
we're
but
running out of time.
why, from your perspective and experience, is the study of entomology so important? And why is this conversation critical?
Yeah, no, entomology is incredibly important. Like insects make up 80% of all animal species. Like they're the most diverse, the most speciose group. It's crazy to me that more people don't study entomology.
Yeah,
And to save an ecosystem, you need to know about all the parts of it. And that's why it's so necessary to study entomology. In addition to like, the typical, they're crucial to study for agriculture, for invasive pest control, disease control. They can even tell you things about homicide cases. There's forensic entomology.
sure. Yeah.
It's important for systematic DNA research. And you can actually use insects to study things like molecular biology, genetics, medicine,
Yep.
even like like robotics, how the way they fly. And
right.
So a lot of research and science just depends on insects. So, it's just, in my experience, entomology is just, it is critical.
Yeah.
It's necessary, and it's something that I wish people would, do more.
Well, and I think really, we've talked to other entomologists before, and just like to really understand the tiny, like we're talking about one bug, one plant, right? But then the bigger picture, if you zoom out, it's just sort of like why our world isn't stacked with dead bodies, truly. Like, I mean, if there weren't bugs, there would be 40 deer across the road from me. I mean, just sort of like just the amount of the cleanup crew, and then why we have chocolate, why we have coffee, why we have all these the yummy things, we get to drink wine because of them, like all of the good stuff.
We get to eat food because of them.
Totally, we get to
eat fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We don't get scurvy from them, because you know what I'm saying. Like all these things are so important, and it's so true, Gwen. And so appreciate you talking with us. Please jump on your Gwen's Instagram. Yeah. So tell us where we can follow you, and where we can watch all your great videos.
Yeah, if you want to learn about insects, check out my page called Gwentomologist. Little play on words there.
Gwentomologist. Yeah, it's a fantastic page on Instagram.
Gwentomologist. Yeah, I also will post on other social media types. Same name, but usually it's mostly just Instagram. So
like where else?
Yeah.
Bugs. Are you YouTube at all?
Technically
or
have YouTube, TikTok, Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not as active on those, so.
Okay.
I should be though.
Well, we're gonna keep following you. I've been following you for a long time. You're such an inspiration. You never disappoint with your posts. I learned something in all of the language that you speak, and just the beautiful posts, and just your and Jen and I talk a lot about making nature like normal, right? Just sort of normalizing that there's bugs around. And I actually learned about a spider in my garden because of you. It's this beautiful leggy, beautiful one. And she's got green and blue, and she's big. She's like real big, like, and I think they're coming
up.
The
body's that big that you're making?
The body's like that big, and then the legs, but she's gorgeous.
Maybe orb weaver?
Maybe, yeah, but just a common garden spider. She's not poisonous. She's not anything, but just absolutely beautiful. Because I was like, hey, girl, hey, like you're so huge. And then you had talked about her or them. I don't know. They're not all hers, but talked about them on your Instagram. So I always am learning something. So we would love to talk to you again. I mean, we got to get into the desert with that conversation. That was so good.
Absolutely.
We got to get back to that. But Gwen, thank you so much for joining us today, and best of luck.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much, you guys. I absolutely love your podcast, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Anytime. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Takeaway. Now you see why I'm like low-key obsessed with Gwen, right? Like she's such a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
I will say I had no idea what insects and classification she was talking about half the time, but it doesn't matter.
I love though that she just said it as though we would know, which was so adorable. Yeah, and just some of the words and
this is just what they're called. So that's what else is you gonna call them?
When you start going to bud camp at 12, I guess you know a lot of stuff by the time you're in your early 20s.
Absolutely. It's a whole other language that, and I'm like, well, I call them bugs and she calls them mantis flies. So yes, now, and we will put up on our Instagram, we'll be talking all about her. So we're going to be posting a lot of these insects that she was talking about, like the mantis fly. Look it up. It is super cool. Like Hollywood can't even make this stuff up. Like, I mean, I don't know.
No, there's a grasshopper. Did you see the grasshopper that looks like somebody painted it?
Yes.
I don't even know that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's just like,
absolutely gorgeous.
It feels like some like an artist wishes they had done, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean these animals, like, and she highlights them so beautifully. So
yeah.
All right. So for me, I'm curious on your thoughts on this, but the big takeaway for me, surprise, surprise, is her her sort of explaining the impact of climate change. So,
Yeah.
but what I hadn't, so let's back it up again. Like, so she's talking about climate change in context to insects and plants. So she was commenting on, you know, what you and I talking about, how this spring, again, everything's blooming at once here on the East Coast. And so all flowering at the same time, which is not normal, it's pretty weird. But Gwen was saying the problem with this is that insects come out in conjunction to their plants, like their plants. So if all these trees and plants are flowering and blooming and doing whatever they do early, and then the insects come out at their normal time, she's like, well, where's my flower? Where's my plant? Right. And that hit me in a very different way. And then I was thinking about how we were talking about insects and plants in the desert, and just how so interconnected. There's like one bug for one plant type thing. Right. And if they don't get together, we're talking about pollination, obviously, a lot of this. Right. And so they don't get to get pollinated. And it just really struck me, like the work she's doing with savenature.org, like in that Moab desert area, like how incredibly reliant insects and plants have on one another, but also how vulnerable and fragile. I mean, fragile is not quite the right way. It is, but just very vulnerable. Like if you change anything, the impact is massive.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was thinking, she didn't say this specifically, but wondering too, not only the pollination part, but if an insect relies on a certain plant to feed on, that's what they eat. You know what I mean? Then if it's already gone or done, and it's not quite the same because there's still parts of plants when they're done blooming, but still, it just is like, it similarly to you, it kind of made me a little sweaty, just like, oh shoot. Like, it's not just like it's weird and it's kind of awkward and it's tough for people with allergies. It's like, no, this is like when we peel back the layers things that we don't even think about because we don't know. Yeah. That it's just like, it made me feel really uncomfortable and nervous, I would say, about the future of things.
Well, and I think that's what so many scientists, they have a deep connection to, like the anxiety and the stress, the climate change stress. And I think like and she was saying about that one bug that has its own little internal air conditioning, like if it's too humid or too something, like it doesn't work. And so like, and it's we've talked about this many times, it's the rapid up and down changes that's happening. They don't have, it's not like long term.
Insects don't have time to evolve. Right, exactly. And we've had that conversation before where it's like, nature is incredibly resilient, and it's also, it's not gonna, in 2 years, it can't adapt.
It can't adapt. That's so right. So I you know, and we were asking, you know, I said, well, kind of how is this for you personally? She's like, you know, it's really tough and it can be really stressful, but you just kind of keep doing what you're doing. I love how she talked about like, just do your passion, because in every field can contribute to the healing and the support of these species. And yet then she's talking about like legislation and policy where you only get to pick one you're going to save because we only have this. It's just like, oh my gosh, it was a lot. And I think, but I was really excited to hear about her work going forward, that she wants to do this, you know, the exact DNA coding of these species, these insects, so we know exactly who we have and, you know, what they need. And But thanks so much to Gwen for speaking with us. She was fantastic. Just knows a lot, and I just can't wait to watch her grow and just become a leader in her field. And so appreciate her time and energy. And she's just so needed at this time, and her passion is infectious. So thank you so much to Gwen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so great. And if you like this episode, please share it. Also, you can join our Kindred community through Kindred Plus by subscribing to our podcast on Apple Podcasts. And we give you early access to these incredible episodes, and we give you more content via Kindred Plus. And you're supporting a small, independent little production, and we so appreciate all of the support. You can check out the links in the show notes to subscribe. Please follow Gwen. You will not be disappointed. Just the beautiful species that she gets to sort of feature and highlight, and just she was talking about the stuff she finds. So best of luck to Gwen. We are cheering for you. We appreciate you, and we hope to have her back someday, don't we?
Yeah, that was great.
All right, everyone, thanks so much for joining us today, and lots of love. Kindred is hosted by me and my sister Jen, produced by Kat Gaddy and myself. Sound production and editing by Dan Cooper. Original music by Ellie Grace, and our Kindred artwork was created by Lindsay Coffin. Please follow, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and feel free to contact us through our website at kindredpodcast.co, where you can also find details about Kindred Plus, our subscription service, as well as links to our social media accounts and show notes.